Hello ladies and gents, this is going to be episode number 18 of Beginner's Java. Today we're going to go over a few things, kind of talk about objects in a little bit more detail, and we're going to go over, uh, let's do a little bit of showing you guys where you may have seen some object things in place. What is this? Oh, I think that this is from the Advanced Java class, so yeah, I can get rid of this. Okay, so let's just kill that. And alright, we are back to working. So, let's make ourselves a quick class here. And actually, you know what? Let's skip making classes, and instead let's go for showing you guys some kind of examples of where you've been using classes that you might not realize, and we'll kind of talk about how those things are implemented. So let's say that we make something like let's do string str equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll do integer my num equals 0. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to say my num equals str dot, or I'm sorry, integer dot parse int str. And so what you're going to notice here is that this integer is accepting the dot operator arguments that we see when we make our own classes. So there's other ones that we, should be aware of. And that's what this lesson is going to be kind of dedicated to, is just sort of different things like that. So let's change that to my num. It's very hard for me to type and talk at the same time. So there's a lot of useful ones, but there's just a bunch of things that I haven't covered that I do want to cover before we move forward too. So I feel like this is going to be a good time for that. So going with that same sort of idea, if we were to do str, or let's make a second one, string str2 equals, and we're going to change this to, let's say, let's do Italy. Here it's a nice place. So it's probably better than here, snowed in. So if we were to want to change Italy to being lowercase, we could do this. We could do str2 equals str2 dot 2 lowercase, just like that. And so in this case, we're calling a method of the string object that we created. And so you'll kind of notice that what I said there is string object. So in the case of, these strings that we're using, they're actually objects. I didn't spring that on you guys earlier for obvious reasons, because you didn't know what an object was. Our operating definition of an object is still simply a thing that holds stuff. And since a string holds some characters or whatever else we want, it is indeed a thing that holds stuff. Now, if we want to compare two strings, let's say we made another string, and we'll call this str3, and we'll set this equal to lowercase italy, because that's what should be in here after we convert it. Say we make an if statement where we say if str2 equals str3. For those of you who know what's going to happen here, don't spoil it. Let's just say and the else will be system.out.println they are not equal. Just like that. So we go ahead, we'll give this a run since it doesn't require any input, and you'll see that it says that they are not equal. So we want to do a debug on this. So let's toss in a system.out.println, and let's output str2 and str3 here, and see why they're not equal. And so we're going to run this one more time, save, run, and you'll see that they're exactly the same. So why doesn't this work? And the answer is because this equals operator is not used with string objects. So I kind of pulled a fast one. What we want to do is use dot equals, and then our argument will be str3. So that will compare, and if it's equal, so if this evaluates to true, which will return a 1, it will go in here. So now we run it, and you'll see that they are indeed equal. So that's a pretty important distinction that I think I'd left out all the time. So another one that I've so graciously left out is, let me import scanner here. Okay, so that was supposed to be outside of the class. My bad. Okay, so we import scanner input equals new scanner system.in, and then we come down here and let's do something along the lines of system.out.println, and we'll do enter a actually enter a phrase. So let's do that. Now, what I didn't teach you guys, and I realized this way later, is I never taught you guys how to take in an entire string that's like a phrase. So we'll call this phrase, to give it a somewhat descriptive name, equals input dot next line. So yeah, that's how you take in a whole line. And since we want to be kind of accurate, let's do something fun. Show you another thing that I haven't shown you there. So let's say if phrase dot contains, and we'll search for score. So we'll do system.out.println, and we'll say Gettysburg, and we'll just leave the else as not that. Okay, so once again we run, we have to enter a phrase, so we'll do fourscore and 7 years ago. And so it tells us Gettysburg. Now there's a trick to this. If we enter fourscore, it comes out to not Gettysburg, because unfortunately when we use contains, there's no such thing as a contains ignore case. So with equals, if let's say we were to remove this 2 lowercase here, we can then come down here and there's another function called equal ignore ignore case, or equals ignore dot equals ignore case. Oh yeah, it was uppercase. So we do just like that, and that works. So now these two will come back equal still, despite them being different cases. However, that does not work with contains. So what you have as another option here is we can do phrase equals phrase dot 2 lowercase, or we can do 2 uppercase if we want, but since we're checking for the lowercase, it kind of makes sense. So there's just a few that come to mind about things that I haven't taught you guys that I probably should have long before now. There's many other things that I should probably teach you guys how to do, but I think that the rest of this video would be well served in showing you guys something I haven't shown you before, and that's how to read a Java doc. And let's take it one step further and go with how to kind of import a library into your stuff. So I know of a wonderful library called Date4j. It is the URL, it should come up top on Google, date4j.net. You come in here, it's going to, tell you a bunch of stuff that says, hey, well, it's really a pain in the ass to deal with time libraries in Java. And believe me, you have no idea how bad it is. It's truly terrible. And so, they kind of go, well, here's how you handle it. And they give you this great sort of library that deals with it. So you click jar, it'll download. We come in here, and we have Date4j. We'll kind of copy that, toss it into... do I have an includes folder? I don't have an includes folder on this laptop. Okay, so we'll go into includes. We'll pull it back from here, I guess. Where did it go? There it is. So we'll cut that and paste it over in includes. Lovely. So we want to include Date4j into our project. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is include it so that our JRE system library can find it. So this will lead nicely into Ivy when we get there, but for now we're going to go to Properties. We're going to go to Java Build Path. We're going to go to Add Library. This is going to be just a simple user library, and it's going to ask us to set it up, so we can add it under user library, then just go to user libraries and it will bring us in here. We can go to new and import rather than new. And so we'll go to Documents, Includes, did I go to the wrong thing? Oh, yeah, so good thing about, recording these in real time is when you screw up, everybody gets to look at you screw up. So I think it's a JRE system. No, it's not a system library. Why can't I? Because, oh, add jar. Duh. So add external jar is what we should be after. So to my defense, this is not how I normally go about adding jars. I use a solution called Ivy. So this is probably about the third time I've had to do it this way. So yeah, add external jars, you add that in, and then you're going to need to have the import string. So normally we have import java.util.scanner right there. So this is a similar thing. It's going to be a bit different. So what we'll do is we'll kind of look into this Java doc. And this Java doc kind of gives us some examples on how to use different things. So we want to go into date time because that's the primary one. And so underneath object right here, it will say hirondelle.date4j.datetime. So we can come back in here and we can do an import on just that. So now we have this date time thing. Well, what can we do with it? So let's also import while we're doing it. It's import java.util.timezone, I think, or timezone. Is it with an S or no? Yeah, okay, timezone. So now let's say that we wanted to get the present time right now for GMT, or it's actually UTC. So I'm actually running a little overtime here. What we can do is we can make a datetime object, and we can call it now equals, and then we can come back in here and kind of look at how this thing works. So we can do datetime.now and then set a time zone. So now the time zone is going to be part of another library. So we do datetime.now, and then it's going to ask us our time zone. So I think we can do like UTC just like that. But it's going to kind of complain because it's not expecting a string there. It's expecting a Java time zone. So what does that mean? Now we can look further on this page and it will probably give us the answer. The Java doc for this is spectacular. I think that the Java doc for this is one of the best I've ever come across. But that's not how we're going to do it, because getting the answer from somebody else isn't our goal. We want to find the answer. So we can do a java.util.timezone. Look that up, and we'll come right here because this is clearly the one we want. And now we can kind of look through and check its constructors and methods. So we come in here and we have a bunch of different stuff where we can get different time zones, but what are we looking for? So what we're actually looking for in this case is we're looking to get a specific area. So with this, we can kind of read through these and see which one of these. Clone, clearly not it. This one's returning a string. That's not really what we're looking for. So we don't need IDs. So we don't need get default because that's the one we have. And so we kind of come down to this one that says get display name. That's not really right. Get offset. Still not really right. Get time zone. Ah, that's interesting. So we kind of come in here and we click on it and it jumps us down the page. And so it says that it's looking for a string. So we come back in here and we're going to try something crazy. And we're going to do time zone dot, and then what did we decide on? Get time zone. And then we're going to do UTC. And now everything's happy, except for our datetime object, which is supposed to be a capital T. So now everybody's happy. We do a system.out.println, and we're going to output the current time in UTC is, and we'll do plus now. And so we give this a run again for score. We run that, and it gives us the output time in UTC. So I'm really sorry that this is run way over time. I guess it's better than me making two videos, making one really long video. But we've covered a lot of ground in this, and I feel a lot more comfortable kind of going back to teaching objects now that I've taught a lot of the stuff that I skipped out on earlier. Since I made a quick mention of it earlier, I suppose I'll show you guys an example of Ivy. So it kind of explains away why I had no idea how to manually include a file. So this is actually something I'm going to be teaching in the intermediate Java course, but I have an add-on called IVDE, and Ivy goes out onto the internet and resolves things. So the way I add that is I go to Add Library, and then I go to IVDE Manage Libraries, and I have two files here that set it up. So you have ivy.xml, which declares what dependencies you're using, where they are, what they do, and how they work. And then Ivy settings, which more specifically tells things where to go to get them. So in this case, it has a central repository. That's my work repository right there. And then lastly, you have your build.xml file, which is where you tell the Ivy script how to resolve. And so we'll get into that in intermediate, but I just wanted to explain why I suck so much before everyone stops watching. Alright, so that's everything today. Thanks for watching, guys, and tune in next time, and we'll be going over objects with a little bit more depth, and then I'm thinking that'll be it for beginners. You guys will be ready to jump into intermediate. Alright, see you around.